enough to know that you can't make charges of collusion without evidence, or you shouldn't, and that the Mike Flynn charges don't show that there was actual cheating in the election between Russia and the Trump campaign. Joy Behar, however, is a moron, and so she doesn't know that. So Joy Behar over at The View, she completely misconstrues the report from Mike Flynn, and you'll hear the crowd cheer as they think they finally got Trump.
Oh, breaking news. ABC News' Brian Ross is reporting Michael Flynn promised full cooperation to the Mueller team and is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. Yes!
And the crowd goes wild for news that never happened. Because it never happened. So we reported on Friday that Brian Ross had said this on ABC. Only one problem. Brian Ross was wrong. So let's get to Trump fighting back against all of this. So Trump is not a guy who sits down when he feels that there's a need to stand. The president is a counterpuncher, as the vice president says. And the idea that the president of the United States is going to take a backseat to anyone on this stuff is not true. So the president immediately goes out front and starts fighting this. So he starts by slamming the FBI itself. So he goes on Twitter and he says, report, anti-Trump FBI agent led Clinton email probe. Now it all starts to make sense. He's saying this is a witch hunt, that the FBI, that the Clinton probe was led by a bunch of biased people, and that the people who are now going after him from the FBI are biased as well. Now, it is certainly the case that James Comey was biased in favor of Hillary Clinton. There is no doubt whatsoever that she actually violated the law, and he let her off the hook preemptively. And it's not a surprise that an anti-Trump FBI agent was helping Hillary Clinton out. The idea that the FBI is a non-political body is not true. The FBI has always been somewhat of a political body. That does not mean that local FBI agents aren't doing their jobs, but Trump isn't wrong about this. By the way, it is important to question, and I asked this question on Fox. It still has not been answered. This FBI agent, the story here is that there was an FBI agent who had texted some nasty things about Trump, and Robert Mueller fired him. The question is how Robert Mueller found out about it. So if Robert Mueller found out about it and fired him, then Robert Mueller is not biased, right? That would be evidence that Robert Mueller is trying to do the right thing. If he found out about it because the media reported on it and then he fired him, then it might be that the Mueller investigation is inherently biased. I don't think Mueller is necessarily biased against Trump. I think that this is what special prosecutors do. They dig and they dig and they dig and they dig until they find a crime. And if they can't find a crime, then they get a bunch of people in there to talk to the FBI, and then they use that to create crimes. And I'm not saying that Mike Flynn was entrapped. Mike Flynn is an intelligent guy, should have been there with a lawyer. You don't lie to the FBI. But it is also true that the FBI likes to charge lying to the FBI even when there's no underlying crime. So Trump slams the FBI, and then he continues along these lines. He also tweets this: tainted, no, very dishonest. FBI agent's role in Clinton probe under review. Led Clinton email probe. Clinton money going to wife of another FBI agent in charge. So here's Trump going after the FBI. Now, you know, there is something dangerous about going after the entire institution of the FBI, but to suggest that there was bias in the Hillary investigation, I think, is understating the case. As I said at the time, the idea that Mueller did not indict Hillary Clinton, or at least recommend her indictment, is pretty astonishing. Okay, so there is that. Then he went directly after James Comey. So Comey, why Comey is still in the news is really beyond me. I guess just because Comey, the suggestion is that he obstructed justice by firing Comey. But Trump says, I never asked Comey to stop investigating Flynn. Just more fake news covering another Comey lie. So Comey is the one who testified to that. Trump is now saying that he never told Comey to stop investigating Flynn. The evidence on Trump's side on this is that Comey didn't actually stop investigating Flynn. And even after Comey was fired, the investigation into Flynn obviously didn't stop. So it's possible that Trump said, I wish that you would see your way clear to letting Flynn go. He's not a bad guy. By the same token, that doesn't really count as telling Flynn to stop telling Comey to stop investigating Flynn. I mean, Trump had the capacity to make that stop, and he didn't. And then he continued along smacking Comey. He said, after years of Comey with the phony and dishonest Clinton investigation and more, running the FBI, its reputation is in tatters, worst in history. But fear not, we will bring it back to greatness. So he's attacking the FBI, so another institution under attack. Now, Comey's not helping his case. So Comey goes out himself and decides that it is worthwhile to tweet. So now Comey's on Twitter. This is just what we need, everyone on Twitter. And James Comey tweets a bunch of pictures of people in FBI coats saying, I want the people to know this truth. The FBI is honest, the FBI is strong, and the FBI is and always will be independent. Me, June 8th, 2017. There is an account called Ben Shapiro Quotes. I do retweet it, but I don't actually quote myself. Okay, I'm not sure that I've ever actually quoted myself, like on Twitter like that. James Comey is, Trump called him a grandstander and basically an attention whore. James Comey is those things. So Trump goes after Comey as well. Then Trump goes after the media. He's not wrong to go after bias in the FBI. He's not wrong to go after Comey, by the way. And he's not wrong to go after the media. So he starts slamming the media too, particularly because of this retracted report from Brian Ross. So let's start with the actual Brian Ross report. So Brian Ross originally reported this about Mike Flynn and President Trump.
He's prepared to testify, we are told by a confidant, against President Trump, against members of the Trump family, and others in the White House. He is prepared to testify that President Trump, as a candidate, Donald Trump, directed him to make contact with the Russians, which contradicts all that Donald Trump has said at this point. As well, we're told that Flynn made the decision to cooperate only in the last 24 hours, that he is distraught about the decision but feels he's doing the right thing for his country, that he was facing huge legal bills of more than $1 million, and that he said that finally he had to go ahead and do this for that reason. He expects to put his house on the market. He is facing serious financial problems.
Okay, so Ross has been in trouble a few other times for getting the story completely wrong. Here he got the story completely wrong. It turns out that Flynn was not going to testify that candidate Trump told him to contact the Russians, but that President-elect Trump had told him to contact the Russians. That makes a huge difference. President-elect Trump telling him to contact the Russians is not a big deal. It doesn't go to the question of whether the Trump campaign was working with the Russians in the first place. So Brian Ross is forced to retract this. Here he is retracting this just over the weekend. He was then suspended for a month for getting this report wrong. It's 13.
And David, a clarification tonight on something one of Flynn's confidants told us, and we reported earlier today. He said the president had asked Flynn to contact Russia during the campaign. He's now clarifying that, saying, according to Flynn, candidate Trump asked him during the campaign to find ways to repair relations with Russia and other hotspots. And then after the election, the president-elect asked him and told him to contact Russia on issues, including working together to fight ISIS. David.
Before and after. And in the meantime, Brian, we do have a statement from Michael Flynn tonight. He said, I accept full responsibility for my actions.
That's right. And Flynn's confidant says Flynn's extremely angry at the White House tonight that he was going broke with crippling legal fees.
Okay, so we can let that go. Okay, finally, Trump goes after Brian Ross and the media, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. So Trump is lashing out at everyone. In part, I think justifiably. In part, he's making things worse for himself. When he lashes out this way, it makes him look like he has something to hide, even though he doesn't. I've said from the very beginning, from literally the outset of this, that when he fired Comey, it seems to me that the best possible explanation for what Trump does is incompetence, not malice. That usually it's about President Trump being angry at something that's going on, firing somebody, not about him just deciding that he wants to cover up some sort of nefarious crime. I'll get to all that in just a second. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors. Oh, not wrong to slam Brian Ross. Okay, he's right. Brian Ross was wrong here. Again, I'm not sure it's worth the president getting his hands dirty, because when the president does this, it gives off an air of desperation that I don't think is actually warranted here. He says people who lost money when stock market went down 350 points based on the false and dishonest reporting of Brian Ross of ABC News, he has been suspended, should consider hiring a lawyer and suing ABC for the damages this bad reporting has caused, many millions of dollars. I don't really think he wants to go here. The fact is the president of the United States has momentarily tanked various stocks over his presidency by naming companies and bashing them. If they can sue over Trump doing that, then, they can also sue over Brian Ross, I suppose. Trump continues along these lines, and he says this. Let's see, do we have another Trump tweet here? Slamming the media? Yes, no? Okay, so in any case, Trump goes after the media. He goes after Brian Ross. Not a shock there. And then finally, he hits the Justice Department. He's still angry at his own Justice Department for not going after Hillary Clinton. And really, he's mad at Jeff Sessions and the Justice Department for not protecting him from what he feels is a witch hunt. And here's what he tweeted. Many people in our country are asking what the Justice Department, justice in scare quotes, is going to do about the fact that totally crooked Hillary, after receiving a subpoena from the United States Congress, deleted and acid washed 33,000 emails. No justice. And then he tweeted along these lines again. He went after his own DOJ. So General Flynn lies to the FBI. His life is destroyed. Crooked Hillary Clinton on that now famous FBI holiday interrogation with no swearing in and no recording lies many times, and nothing happens to her. Rigged system or just a double standard? Again, I don't think he's wrong on all this. I just think that the louder Trump gets, the more it looks as though he has something to hide. And that's a problem for him. The best thing he could do right now is say, listen, the investigation should go forward. I didn't lie. Mike Flynn might have lied to the FBI, but it was about an underlying crime that doesn't exist. And then maybe down the road, when all that comes out is that it's a bunch of lied to the FBI charges with no underlying crime, he can always do the Scooter Libby, just commute everybody's sentence. To me, that seems like the best possible solution. But what's happening here is I think Trump is getting so upset about this that now he's thinking about firing Robert Mueller, the special counsel. Once you fire the special counsel, then all hell breaks loose because people are going to assume, rightly or wrongly, that you really do have something to hide. So whoever is around President Trump should be encouraging him today not to fire Mueller, but to be encouraging Mike Flynn that he's probably never going to serve a day in jail for lying to the FBI about something for which there's no underlying crime. Chris Ruddy, who's a friend to President Trump, says that Mueller is an existential threat to the Trump presidency at this point. That's true in the sense that the more of this builds up, the more Democrats might try to impeach him. But let me put it this way. If the Democrats tried to impeach Trump over Mike Flynn lying to the FBI over no underlying crime, I would oppose the impeachment. I think so would most Americans. Here's Chris Ruddy, though, saying that Trump is feeling really threatened.
At the end of the day, my view is that Robert Mueller poses an existential threat to the Trump presidency. He's gotten 4 major, 2 convictions, 2 plea agreements, lightning speed.
Okay, I don't think that he poses an existential threat to the Trump presidency unless you think that Trump actually has something to hide. If Trump does have something to hide, then it was Trump that posed an existential threat to the Trump presidency, not Mueller. That said, this does not look like this is an apolitical investigation by any stretch of the imagination. It looks like an investigation designed to elicit charges of lie to the FBI that is not designed to elicit actual underlying crimes. We were told this investigation was all about collusion with the Russians. Has there been any evidence of that? Has Mueller indicted anyone for any of that? Not that I can really see anywhere here. I mean, George Papadopoulos would be the closest thing to it, and even that is unclear as far